Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. It's Healthy Week over at NBC. Not to be confused with Green Week. That's an entirely different, that's Health Week for the planet. This is Health Week for your body. It's all about saving trees for Green Week. But this one, Health Week, designed to inform and activate individuals around health and wellness. And they're going to bring you health-related content all across the NBC Universal brands. Yes! They're doing it not because they love Michelle Obama, no, because they love your health. Both on air and online. Health Week, NBC, which is great, and it's being sponsored by the good people at General Mills. So I wanted to do my part. Whole grain, says right here, whole grain. This is healthy, and this one is General Mills. And the Cookie Crisp, oh my gosh, don't touch me Lucky Charms, I love that one. And then the Betty Crocker frosting, I love that one. Oh, I love fruit roll-ups too. Where's the, oh, the Funfetti. Have you had the Funfetti cake yet for Health Week? This is something from NBC I can get behind. Thanks, NBC Universal. You're great. Hello, America. Actually, I do love all of those products, which... All right. You might not have seen, because the media seems to have decided at some point or another that the relentless making fun of presidential gaffes overseas is like so totally last Bush. You know, not this one. We here have Obama completing one of the most humiliating trips by a president of all time, and nobody's noticing it. I mean, it's gaffe after gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. Really, it is. Where we have them. Oh, this was embarrassing. This is humiliating. You have to see this one, and it makes you feel bad for them. It does. That's their national anthem. You should hide the kids before we get to these at the bottom of the hour. I mean, we might as well have sent Joe Biden on this trip. About the only thing he didn't do was bow down to Pippa, which, look at what strange hands you have, Pippa. That's the bad news of the day. Good news of the day, our president is once again making America the laughingstock of the world. Yes, yes. And more than with just the stupid gaffes. He's alienating our longest and most staunch allies. We don't have a lot of them left. I was like, where did I put my friends? Wow. Here's the real good news. More and more people around the world are waking up and standing up. Not because of the stupid gaffes. That's a distraction. Those would be some of the cakes and circuses. There are people at the highest levels all around the world who get it. They know the difference between good and evil. You are not alone. And in their own way, they're doing their part to stand up. Most you won't ever see and won't know. Many aren't even Americans because, well, I think actually it's easier for Americans to stay asleep than overseas because we here have become so complacent with our unique gift that was given to us by our founding fathers, that was so carefully crafted for us that we stay a snooze a little too long. They know that America is freedom's last stand. We have several sources all around, and does it make the left nervous? Yes, it does. Very. We have sources all around the world. We had some sources that I told you about yesterday informed me that at the highest levels in Syria and Iran, they know the power of what we are on, and they also know that we know what they're doing. What they're doing is they are setting Israel up, and that's why I put this together. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know the president was going to all of a sudden say, you know what, we should give Jerusalem to the Palestinians. Didn't know that. Suspected, and I know what's coming up this summer, and I know that if the world will stand and be courageous, it will turn everything around in a heartbeat. The event we're doing is called Restoring Courage, and we'll talk about it later on. But before we talk about it, I have to talk to you about the news of the day, but in a way that you're not going to get on other news channels. First is Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu gave a fantastic speech to Congress yesterday, which was only tarnished by the 28-year-old Code Pink idiot and Joe Biden, who for some reason wasn't clapping, especially in the important part, like when he said, we're not going to go back to the 67 lines. He didn't clap. Everybody else was. Why? Top official for Palestinian President Abbas said that Netanyahu's insistence on keeping key territories is, quote, a declaration of war against the Palestinians. That's not good. We are headed for real trouble in the world. Obama gives a speech. This is the way it's being framed. Obama gives a speech and Netanyahu responds. But that's not the way it was. Netanyahu was scheduled to give the speech, and Obama jumped out in front of it. Is that what a friend does? While he's doing that, what the world is not seeing, the plight to the Palestinians, well, let me show you things that aren't being seen on American television, and you ask yourself why. Palestinians are telling people that Israel has declared war on them. Palestinians, prominent ones, are speaking out. Now, here's a guy who was a sponsor of last year's flotilla. He's a Lebanese businessman and activist, sponsor of last year's flotilla. Watch what he says.
نتنياهو الذي يقول بأنه يجب حق اللجوء أن
حله خارج إسرائيل كما يدعي.
يجب أن يحل مشكلته عندما يعود إلى وطنه الأصلي موسكو. هؤلاء النفايات البشرية لك حتى بالفور عندما تحمس وأعطى شعب وأعطى أرضي لهؤلاء اليهود قال لكي نتخلص منهم، يعني بحماسته لكي نتخلص منهم. وزدتوا لنا هدول النفايات الذي يجب أن نرميهم، ليس نرميهم في بلادهم.
So the English brought us these pieces of filth, he says. War with pieces of filth who should be sent back to where they came from. Remember, this is the guy who's sponsoring the humanitarian effort. Is it now? Why is no one reporting on this? Here's another clip from an Egyptian children's program. Egypt. This is what they're teaching their children on television. Why haven't you seen this before?
تقول ازاي ترد على اليهود الوحشين اللي بيقول لك ان القدس بتاعتنا، ازاي ترد عليه؟ عرب اول حاجه نرد بيها على اليهود ان المدينه دي، مدينه القدس المباركه دي، سكنها العرب عاشوا فيها قبل اول عهد لليهود، يعني قبل اول واحد يهودي يروح يقعد فيها بكام سنه؟ باكتر من 2000 وحشين. يستعدوا ويخلوا الاطفال الصغيرين يعملوا حاجات وحشه كتير علشان يكرهوا الاسلام ويموتوا كل اخواتنا المسلمين هناك.
He thinks I saw a putty cat. Call me crazy, but it doesn't seem like this is going to end well. America, the world is headed for another disaster, and we have our eyes wide open. And it's a disaster that we promised we would never let happen again. Now, here's the question. Does the president know this? You have to answer that question. The president has either, I think, knowingly or unknowingly, set the world on a collision course because there's no way back around out of this. And we're supposed to be Israel's best friend. Let me tell you a story. Let's see if this makes sense to you. One of my best friends growing up was Robert. So let's just use him as an example. If I needed to come over because I had neighbors that were trying to attack me and I really needed help from Robert, my best friend growing up, I would call him up and I'd say, hey, I really need to talk to your family because I really need to enlist your help. Can I meet with them on Friday? And he'd say, sure, come on over. Talk to that's what a friend would do, right? Come on over, talk to the family. Now imagine if my best friend said, yeah, but as I'm getting into the car to go over to his house, I find out that my best friend just sat his family down and said, listen, I don't care what Glenn says to you, but let me tell you about his neighbors. If we're going to do anything, it's got to be under these conditions. And it's what the neighbors have been screaming at. Now, he knew these conditions would be unacceptable to me. Is he my friend? So when I finally get to the house where I can talk to the family, he's already talked to them. So I have to then respond to what he said. Now, that's not the act of a friend. But then when I do get to make my case, he doesn't give my family a chance to even talk about it because he's off onto something else. He changes the subject to something entirely different. He left while I was still making the argument with the family to go to another event, making sure to tell the family before he leaves how important, you listen to Glenn, they're important to me. Half the family went with him, by the way. Divides the attention. That's what's happened. You see, this is what happened. Thursday, Benjamin Netanyahu went to Congress. This was scheduled before his speech was. So President Obama knew that he was going to be speaking, that Benjamin Netanyahu was going to speak, and he knew he had to control it. That's why he gave this. And is it interesting that he gave this speech as Benjamin Netanyahu's getting ready to board the plane? So he's now out of touch with everyone for 12 hours. He cannot respond right away for 12 hours. That leaves Benjamin Netanyahu with the bad news cycle of Friday to respond. Sunday, Obama speaks at AIPAC. Monday, Benjamin Netanyahu speaks at AIPAC. And Tuesday, Benjamin Netanyahu arrives at Congress. But the president is already gone. He's now in Ireland. Don't touch me, Lucky Charms, he says. Really? And then, while we have a chance to talk about what happened, the president is giving the toast that everybody is watching, and then he speaks in front of Parliament. What best friend in the world would do that when you're trying to plead the case and ask for the family's help? No best friend would. So, I contend that what is coming this summer is bad, and we're no best friend anymore to Israel. So what do? Well, the first thing you have to do is stop the mainstream media from doing what it's doing, or no, better yet, do what the mainstream media should be doing. And that is explain what is happening to the American people. Show everything that is happening. And show it in advance and how it's being orchestrated. You can predict this. Believe me, I have been for the last 6 months. You can predict it. Why? Because it's a game. It's a show put on for the world. To win this, it will all come down on you or to you. And don't think that I'm talking about the collective TV audience you. I'm actually speaking to you. Will you do nothing? Will you absorb this information? Or will you take it and see the perilous times that the world is in? Gang, this is the end game for the Western way of life. If this succeeds, you take out that keystone of Israel and the West falls. This is going to be the storyline presented to the world. The poor, peaceful Palestinians, all they do is they just want to work hard, and they want to make chocolate cake for their kids and play soccer and laugh and make the world a better place. But the evil Jew is hunting them down and destroying them again. It's the same story that's being told about you, the Americans, on Mexico's border. That's the story. Except this one's going to include lots of violence. If you think I'm crazy, let's follow through. Do you remember last year's flotilla? It was last May 31st, the 6-ship flotilla organized by Free Gaza and the Turkish IHH tried to illegally break through the Gaza Strip. When the IDF, that's the Israeli Defense Force, boarded the ship, they did so in a very unthreatening way. It was one soldier at a time. The soldiers were lightly armed. And the first soldier, as he reaches the boat, he's immediately attacked and thrown off the top deck of the boat. There you see him, these peace lovers, these humanitarians, repeatedly attacking, throwing fire bombs at the soldiers, and beating them with steel pipes. They even stabbed the soldiers several times. They managed to wrestle some of the backup handguns the soldiers had packed. Once those guns were stolen, they were used to fire on the IDF forces. It was then and only then that permission was given to use deadly force, which the IDF did, and so would I. But what the media also failed to report is this. Throughout, Palestinians chanted this. Listen carefully. Remember Khaybar. Khaybar, O Jews, the army of Muhammad will return. That's a reference to the attacks in the 7th century where Muslims slaughtered the Jews. Of course, the media spun this event to portray the Jewish people as evil and just attacking a ship filled with peace-loving humanitarians that only want love and more love. Yes. The 9 people who died on board, they were new suicide bombers. It was a suicide mission for some. You don't start stabbing the IDF unless you want them to start opening fire. Now, let me show you the Israeli border. This is happening again. These are new suicide bombers or suicide lovers. They're going over fences. They're acting as peace activists. They're going over these fences. You don't do this in Israel. They are violating the border. This was a suicide mission. They want the people of Israel to shoot them. They want them to be sent over as innocents. These people are being sent to their deaths, and more will be sent this summer, over and over and over again, and Israel will have no choice but to shoot them, because you can't have this happen to your border. What would we do, America, if all of a sudden the Canadians just started coming over our border? Well, actually, we'd probably sell them stuff, because they're Canadians. What would happen if people who were shouting death to America, started coming over our borders all at once? You would have to shoot them. Now, by the way, the same group, Code Pink, who heckled Netanyahu in Congress and AIPAC, and then pretended to somehow security herder, cry me a river. The same group is also behind organizing this flotilla last year. And they're always talking about the oppressed people. They take and make them the center of the cause, and they will take down the West with them. But believe me, America, this is staged. It is Hollywood. Otherwise, if I didn't know the script, how could I tell you this was going to happen? They're so obvious. Nobody's looking for them. They're arrogant and foolish. Their real intention is not humanitarian aid. What humanitarian refers to a group of people as filth. What did Mother Teresa say that? I don't know. The world is getting behind them. The IAH has ties to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, had planned an anniversary flotilla far more massive than the 6-ship brigade that happened last year. This one will be at least 15 ships from 25 different countries and as many as 150 activists willing to take part in the sequel. It's been delayed until midsummer now. But I go back to the border with Israel and Syria. It's just another play. And it's happened on multiple key border locations here in the last few weeks. They are forcing action and crying victim. It's honestly, I mean, we all have kids. It's what happens when one of your kids starts a fight and then goes, "Mom, he's hitting me." That's what's happening. They are trying to create a crisis. And they're also doing something else. They are trying to be Martin Luther King. You see, the Jews had a peaceful protest along with Dietrich Bonhoeffer in Germany, and they lost that because Germans at the time were evil and corrupt. It was too far gone. The Weimar Republic took care of that. That's why it didn't work, but it worked for Gandhi and it worked for MLK. It will work here and it will work in the West. That's what they have to do. But it doesn't work if it's not true. I've shown you this picture a billion times, and I have explained how this is what freed people. It was people standing, really truly believing in what they're doing, and what they're doing is good, not evil. They're not willing to kill anyone for it. And they're locked arm in arm, and they're speaking out. They're not lashing out. They're not going to set bait. We saw it last week in Israel. Syrians lined up, started pouring across the border. They wanted the image of bloody Palestinians. They wanted Israeli forces, like these, to shoot. They are forcing the action and crying victim. That's what they did on the flotilla last year. They're trying to be MLK and force Israel and the big bad United States to look like the South in the 1950s and 60s. It will continue, and it will continue to work unless you know about it in advance. I'm going to tell you exactly what you can do and who I think will lead this movement next. Very well coordinated global play that is so well financed. Well, you spread light on it, and then you spread the word. If there is a movement in this country and the world, hear me, it will change things. But someone must put out the call. So I do. And here it is. You must educate yourself and stand up and stand for peace. You must stand with profound courage. You must stand with profound compassion. And you must stand together. You must stand shoulder to shoulder and with people of any faith and of no faith, quite honestly, if they're standing for good and righteousness and standing for good over evil. I have never led a movement before. I have never wanted to lead a movement before. People have asked me to run for office and everything else, but I haven't wanted to. I haven't wanted to. I've shied away from it because I don't like politics. But this isn't political. This is something. This is about being a shield for others. That's it. This summer may very well be maybe the only summer in your life that counts in the end. This summer may be the summer when your kids will say to you someday, "Do you remember when that happened?" And you'll say, "Not only do I remember, I was there." If you will stand by my side, I will stand by yours. The biggest fear of radical factions in Syria, Iran, and the Middle East, here in America, and believe me, they watch this show religiously. That's not a guess. I know it is a fact. They know what's about to take place in Jerusalem this summer, and it is the beginning of a movement. I'm not on a collision course with anyone. I don't wish to fight. I will not be violent. I will simply stand and link arms because I trust the American people. I know what that man knew. The American people, and really the people of the world, the eyes of the world will be watching, and they knew it. And when you have righteousness on your side and courage on your side, and it's real, then you are a force for good, and you win. When the American people saw those people standing side by side, they chose the right side. That's proven true throughout our history. Even now, college students, while being taught that America is the oppressor and Israel is the oppressor, and being shouted down by radical activists, those people are in the lion's den. And yet, so many more are standing up. If there ever was a time to question with boldness, that time is right now. The mainstream media ignored the flotilla chants, remember, Khaybar. That's the worst Jewish slaughter. They ignored the chants of Jew, 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 or kill the Jew in Tahrir Square. How is that not shocking the world now? I don't know how many people will stand up in their own communities and start to lead, start to organize, start to connect your church together and say, stand up. I don't know how many people will stand with me at the steps of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem in August. There might only be a few hundred, but millions around the world will begin to stand up. Millions around the world will lend support. Organize. Start your own group. Go to the website and make a passionate plea. I'm not a community organizer. I don't think you are either. I'm not a political activist. I'm guessing you're not either. I'm just like you. I'm a guy who finds myself living in unbelievably bizarre times, and I find myself in a unique situation. But that's me. What is your unique situation? We're all pieces to a puzzle. What is your piece? Are you the piece that says, well, wait a minute, I've got this, or I can start a group in Ohio or Texas or Florida? Maybe your piece is starting a blog or taking your blog. Maybe your piece is, I just know somebody overseas and I can get them active. I can get my church to adopt a church in another city in America or in another country, someplace around the world. Maybe you have a lot of friends on Facebook. I don't know what your piece is. I don't know where your puzzle fits, your piece. But I can guarantee you that we all are pieces to a giant puzzle, and it all fits together. I'm calling on you to take a stand. Know the time that you live in. Israel is the keystone to the West. If you remove the keystone, we all fall. You are up against a well-financed campaign, a media that is absolutely in the bag, a State Department that has wanted this from the very beginning. I mean, read about Truman. We have a president who is a great communicator, and he has seemingly an endless supply of teleprompters and people who did this in the 1960s and have been plotting things like this for a long, long time. And then there are those people in the Middle East who are willing to die in order to end the West. But what we have is the truth. What we have is the story of David and Goliath. See, the key is that, not that you're a puny kid with a slingshot, is that you are ready to answer the call when it is made. You have to go and collect those smooth stones at the river's edge before Goliath says, "Come." You're David. Goliath is headed your way. What is your puzzle piece? What is your slingshot? And what is your smooth stone? Find it and link arms. Go to glennbeck.com/Israel for more details. May I ask you a question? In a nation of 310 million people, a people that invented air travel, I mean, we went to the moon. We're the country that brought you travel destinations like Disney, Vegas, and Dolly World. You'd think 310 million people, we could find somebody who might be able to execute a decent trip for the most powerful man in the world. Do you think? Too much to ask? Really? Maybe he could help out with the culture and the etiquette of the places he visits. What do you think? This trip to Europe for Barack Obama seems to have been planned by Clark Griswold. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I really haven't. I don't like to, revel in his gaffes or his fumbles. But it seems to me that our country is really starting to resemble National Lampoon's European Vacation, in case you don't remember. Yeah, those guys.
Can't seem to get over to the left, honey. I'll try next time. Sorry. We'll get out of this jam in a minute. Kids, Big Ben, Parliament, again.
Okay. Upon arriving in Dublin, Ireland, President Obama tried to pull off one of the dumbest sounding Irish accents since Leprechaun. You know, the highly acclaimed Leprechaun movies.
You see, you shouldn't be so greedy.
Yeah. Now here's President Obama. After being greeted by the Irish president, listen to the...
See, the sun's coming out. I can feel it.
You've got to be kidding. Sharon be good, it's a fine day. Top of the morning to ya. Manly, yes, but I like him too. Okay, stop, please. Later that day, the presidential motorcade gets hung up like a teeter-totter at the embassy. Look at this. Oh. Should have checked that. Fortunately, the only thing harmed in the making of this debacle was our pride. Then the president leaves Ireland early to escape the problems caused by the volcano in Iceland, and the next day he's off to Westminster Abbey to sign the guest book. Here's his note. It's great. Oh, look at the way he signed it. It's a great privilege to commemorate our common heritage and common sacrifice. And he does the date in a really European way. Ooh, let's put the numbers before them. Except it's signed 2008. Mr. President, just keep reliving that year. I know it was a good year for you, wasn't it? Or was that, did you inherit the wrong date from the last administration? I'm not. Of course, our illustrious president then had a chance to redeem himself and set everything right with our closest and strongest ally over the past 100 years at the official state function. But don't worry, nobody was watching. It was just the Queen. He had to make a toast to the Queen of England. Now, what could possibly go wrong? It was written out for him. Let me tell you something. If you're squeamish, you might want to avert your eyes. This is really like watching American Idol, where it gets so bad you're like, oh my gosh, I'm uncomfortable, I can't watch it. Watch what he did last night.
To Her Majesty, the Queen.
Cue the music, national anthem.
The vitality of the special relationship between our peoples.
Oh boy.
And, in the words of Shakespeare,
national anthem.
To this blessed plot,
oh boy,
this earth, this realm, this England, to the Queen.
And nobody moves. And he sheepishly looks down after she says something, and the next 24 seconds are an eternity of hell. I think that's what hell is right there. That moment over and over again. Can we get anybody? Is there a travel agent anywhere that can maybe? I mean, I know jobs are plenty. You know. How about this guy? Can we get this guy to start making the travel plans so those 24 seconds don't seem like 24 years? Which really, you know, it's hard to believe, but that's really kind of what his term in office has seemed to a lot of Americans. 24 years. Don't touch me, Lucky Charms. Here. Well, the president in Great Britain pulling every gaffe imaginable. You might have forgotten some of the other big ones in England, but the English haven't. Good for us. Niall Gardner of The Telegraph and the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation was reminding the people over in England of some of the other things that Obama has done to our closest ally. Here are just his top 10, which implies there are more than 10, top 10 Obama insults against Britain that ran in the British papers today. Number 10, undermining British influence in NATO. The Obama administration has done its best to give Paris the lead role in the NATO alliance at Britain's expense. Number 9, insulting words from the State Department. This one is great. In 2009, there was an embarrassing White House reception welcoming Gordon Brown. The senior State Department official mocked it by saying, quote, "There's nothing special about Britain. You're just the same as 190 other countries in the world. You shouldn't expect some special treatment." Oh. Number 8, DVDs for the Prime Minister. Remember that? Gave him like E.T. and stuff. DVDs don't work in Great Britain. Number 7, throwing Churchill out of the Oval Office. It's hard to think of a more derogatory message to send to the British people than within days of taking office, you take the gift they sent us on 9/11 and just, you know, box it up and ship it back. That was really classy. Number 6, placing a boot on the throat of BP. See, a lot of people who have pensions are invested in BP over in Great Britain, and the president kind of trashed British Petroleum.
As Secretary Salazar said, our boot on the throat of BP to ensure that they're doing all that all that is necessary.
Boot on the throat. Number 5, betraying Britain to appease Moscow over the New START treaty. This one is amazing and particularly egregious. It is a major betrayal. I mean, why don't, Mr. President, next time, let's give them the launch codes, huh? Number 4, supporting a federal Europe and undercutting British sovereignty. Number 3, downgrading the special relationship. Barack Obama rarely refers to the special relationship that we have. He did yesterday in that book where he got the date wrong. Number 2, calling France America's strongest ally. Here's what he told Nicolas Sarkozy.
We don't have a stronger friend and a stronger ally than Nicolas Sarkozy and the French people.
Mr. President, The Congo is a stronger friend and ally than France. Congo. Okay? And number 1, siding with Argentina over the Falklands. This one's pretty big since Britain lost some 250 plus in the invasion, and I think we were standing by their side during that. But if this is how you treat your friends, how do you treat your enemies, huh? Well, better than that, which is weird, isn't it? I mean, really weird. I don't really get that. Well, the good news is, at least the pattern of behavior is consistent, and he has quite the follow-through. While he was finishing the job on Israel, he seems to be doing a nice job of finishing us off in Great Britain as well. That's the way to restore our relationships in the world, huh? Oh, you gotta love that. I want to show you a new video. At least 10 people trashing a Dunkin' Donuts store in New York City. This is something that is beginning to happen a lot. Teenagers coming in with a mission to destroy and to vandalize and create chaos. Throwing chairs, climbed over counters to steal food. They broke a $2,000 hot chocolate machine, and when they start messing with my hot chocolate, that's when it ends. You can add this to a growing list of YouTube fights that have been plaguing our country. The Denny's fight over maple syrup, the McDonald's beating where a victim was beaten so badly she went into seizures, the fight at the gas station in Florida. This is one America that I don't want to live in, quite honestly. I don't want to live in that one. I don't think that's America, at least to most of us. No matter how many YouTube hits you might get, that's not America. But then there's another America. Tomorrow we're going to highlight that other America. It's an America where people run into chaos and they help. Not one where they create chaos for a YouTube clip. I wanted to go to Joplin, Missouri, and I felt I would probably cause more damage than help. I would distract. And so instead, I funded my own crew to go down to Joplin, Missouri, because I want to tell the story of Joplin. This is a town so ravaged by a tornado that it is barely recognizable, except for one thing: the American spirit. It is visible through the worst storm damage that you can possibly imagine. These people are just friends and neighbors who just wanted to help. And they're reaching out and supporting a community desperate in need. They gave out blankets and water and hugs and smiles, anything they could to help.
This community, I'm amazed, and not even just this community, but I've been here and I've had people driving from an hour and a half, 2 hours. Someone from Houston is here with me now, just to help out and to volunteer, and it's just been amazing.
The lesson is that you know, God is in control and that He's not abandoning these people. But also another lesson is that people are coming out to help. That you know, people are seeing a need and they're coming out. The support and the people that are coming out is overwhelming.
What's amazing is, I don't know if you saw the guy with the orange shirt standing behind the other. There he is. There he is. I've seen this raw video. Again, this was taken by my film crew. And this guy, he has one arm. And yet he's unloading that truck and pitching in. And the devastation is rather staggering. But I'd rather live in that America where people are pitching in and helping each other, where people head into chaos to help, not one where they choose to create the chaos. More on that tomorrow. I urge you to set your DVRs for Memorial Day. Monday, you don't want to miss this program. We have an incredibly special show with a family who are, they're not victims and they're not survivors. I think they're thrivers. Stephanie Nielsen and her husband, Christian, were burned in a horrible, horrible plane crash. But their faith and their attitude pulled them through. It is an amazing story. They are role models not only for their 4 children, but for all of us. It is this Memorial Day. Don't miss it. Set your DVR now. From New York, good night, America. frosting. I love that one. Oh, I love fruit roll-ups too. Where's the, oh, the funfetti. Have you had the funfetti cake yet for Health Week? This is something from NBC I can get behind. Thanks, NBC Universal. You're great. Uh-oh. Hello, America. Actually, I do love all of those products, which... All right. You might not have seen, because the media seems to have decided at some point or another that the relentless making fun of presidential gaffes overseas is like so totally last Bush. Carefully crafted for us that we stay a snooze a little too long. They know that America is freedom's last stand. We have several sources all around, and does it make the left nervous? Yes, it does. Very. We have sources all around the world. We had some sources that I told you about yesterday informed me that at the highest levels in Syria and Iran, they know the power of what we are on, and they also know that we know what they're doing. What they're doing is they are setting Israel up. And that's why I put this together. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know the president was going to all of a sudden say, you know what? Gaffes. He's alienating our longest and most staunch allies. We don't have a lot of them left. I was like, where did I put my friends? I don't know. Here's the real good news. More and more people around the world are waking up and standing up. Not because of the stupid gaffes. That's a distraction. Those would be some of the cakes and circuses. There are people at the highest levels all around the world who get it. They know the difference between good and evil. You are not alone. And in their own way, they're doing their part to stand up. Most you won't ever see and won't know. Many aren't even Americans because, well, I think actually it's easier for Americans to stay asleep than overseas because we here have become so complacent with our unique gift that was given to us by our founding fathers. That was so, not this one. That we here have Obama completing one of the most humiliating trips by a president of all time, and nobody's noticing it. I mean, it's gaffe after gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. Really, it is. Where we have them. Oh, this was embarrassing. This is humiliating. You have to see this one, and it makes you feel bad for them. It does. That's their national anthem. You should hide the kids before we get to these at the bottom of the hour. I mean, we might as well have sent Joe Biden on this trip. About the only thing he didn't do was bow down to Pippa, which, look at what strange hands you have, Pippa. That's the bad news of the day. Good news of the day, our president is once again making America the laughingstock of the world. Yes, yes. And more than with just the stupid... Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. It's Healthy Week over at NBC. Not to be confused with Green Week. That's an entirely different... That's Health Week for the planet. This is Health Week for your body. It's all about saving trees for Green Week. But this one, Health Week, designed to inform and activate individuals around health and wellness. And they're going to bring you health-related content all across the NBC Universal brands. Yes! They're doing it not because they love Michelle Obama, no, because they love your health. Both on air and online. Health Week, NBC, which is great, and it's being sponsored by the good people at General Mills. So I wanted to do my part. Whole grain, says right here, whole grain. This is healthy, and this one is General Mills. And the Cookie Crisp, oh my gosh, don't touch me Lucky Charms, I love that one. And then the Betty Crocker Fries.